What's our seat number?
Bonus.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good mood today, Johnny?
Fantastic.
Good. Wanted to talk to you about something today because I watched A Time to Kill.
Oh, you did watch A Time to Kill? Ah, we were talking about that yesterday.
Mm-hmm. I watched it while I was in pieces, like while I was putting kids to sleep, later on my walk with Doggy, and then just, doing dishes, and also just in pieces. But I watched it on my phone, as you should not really do. Although, if you ask Christopher Nolan, he says that you can watch movies on your phone.
Really?
Someone asked him, is the movie theater the only place that you can watch movies, meaning you can't watch it on like an iPad or something? And he's like, no. He doesn't give very long answers.
Well, if he said no, then maybe a 75-inch screen at home is what he's referring to.
Is that how you're going to convince Mich to let you get a 75-inch screen? It's like Christopher Nolan said it by saying no.
I just said 75-inch screen, but like I'm really talking about a 65-inch screen. So it's kind of like upselling. Or
so you're saying Mich, Chris Nolan says 75 inches, but I am going to be the bigger man here.
You've seen my Nook over there. 75 inches is going to overwhelm the thing. Yeah. It's way too much.
Yeah. Interesting that you call it a nook.
Well, it's kind of a nook.
It's a bit of a nook.
It's
not a cranny.
No, not a cranny.
Just a
cranny. No. But I think a 65-inch screen would be big, but it's a sweet spot.
So I watched A Time to Kill.
Yes, you watched A Time to Kill. Why is this significant that you haven't seen A Time to Kill?
It's significant because we were quoting the Dave Chappelle Samuel L. Jackson
thing.
It's
coming back to me now.
And in that thing, he's yelling and he says, "Ain't you ever seen my movies?
How's it taste, motherfucker?
Can you stop yelling at me, please?
No, I can't stop yelling, because that's how I talk. You ain't never seen my movies? Juice, that was a good one. Deep Blue Sea, they ate me. A fucking shark ate me. Drink, bitch. Jurassic Park, Samuel Jackson, it's my beer. Yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell.
I rewatched that right after we quoted it, and then I went, I've never seen that. Like, I know it's from A Time to Kill, but I've never seen that. Mm-hmm. So, bitch.
Well, what do you think should happen to them? What would be a fair sentence?
Objection,
do you think
Your
they deserve to die, Mr. Haley? Answer the question.
Carly,
They
don't answer
deserve
that
to
question.
die.
Yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell.
First of all, really hard watch.
Yeah.
But, like, great movie. And
More
Kiefer
so after you
Sutherland
have
was in
kids.
it. And Donald Sutherland was in it.
Yes, he was.
But they don't share any screen time.
No.
I was under the impression that they hadn't been in a movie together.
I think I don't know. That's a Google. That's a Google.
Anyway, so I'm watching this movie, and then I decided to, look up Kiefer Sutherland a bit, and, he was talking about, how when he worked on A Time to Kill, people were saying to him, aren't you worried that, people are going to perceive you in a certain way? And he's like, really? You don't think they're going to understand what I was going for? Because for context, if you haven't seen the movie, he's playing a member of the KKK.
He was also playing like some pretty...
He was playing villains mostly, yeah.
Like up until that point. I mean, if you look at Stand By Me
and The Lost Boys.
That was his first role, I think, right? Stand By Me and The Lost Boys as well. They're maggots, Michael.
How are those maggots? Maggots, Michael. You're eating maggots. How do they taste?
He said that he's noticed about America that when they are watching, and I think it's a rash generalization, but it's not untrue that you often see sort of comments about, oh, how could he play a role like that? And it's like, he's playing a role. He is a part of a story. He does not identify with that character. He is not that character in any way. I get annoyed whenever I see like in Hunters, right? Mm-hmm. There's like this neo-Nazi guy, and he's played by a British actor. I've forgotten his name now. But he's like really psycho. Mm-hmm. And in the interviews, one of the interviewers says to him, like, do you identify with this character in any way? And he's like, I mean, you have to have a certain amount of empathy to play any character, even one as messed up as this one, but I would fucking hope not. Right? And I'm like, what a stupid question. Like, and I think also...
But this is the thing, that people, I think nowadays more than ever, people are really blurring the lines to the point where they don't understand what an actor's job is.
Yeah. And because of... I was thinking about it, because of, like, social media and how much we're, like, you know, exposed to actors in their... It's not even their manufactured private lives, because it's not really their private lives. They're still doing it for a show.
Yeah.
So we think that we know who they are and that we have a right to who they are and what they say and, you know, all that sort of thing. And I was, like, thinking about typecasting, and I was thinking about it also because, you know, Kiefer Sutherland was with... in 24, he was with Take My Car, Jack Bauer, Take My Car,
Jack Ryan,
Jack Ryan, Liam Neeson, Take My Car,
Antonio Banderas,
Take My Car, Reeves, Take My Car.
Take my car. That's what I bought it for.
So I'm just saying, like, you know, he's also, like, I don't think I've ever seen him in a role where he's playing a good guy. It's like Kiefer Sutherland broke out of that with 24, and he has played, like, you know, good guys or not bad guys, like more anti-heroes, whatever, or things that are thrust upon them. And I'm just, like, curious about, like, what... First of all, the two things is the typecasting.
Yeah.
Is that studios or is that audience opinion? Like, we think that this guy is...
I don't think so. I think that there's a certain amount of influence from the studios, from maybe directors, casting directors, whatever. That, like, oh, I saw him do this, therefore
that's what he does.
Right.
Could you imagine if like Robin Williams had never done any of the more, like,
serious roles,
or not even the serious ones, the evil ones, right? Like
1 Hour Photo, Insomnia, yeah,
right. If they would have said, no, you're the funny guy, you're the guy.
But they did. That was the point.
But they gave him a chance. It's like how the best casting decisions are usually the ones where the audience are really, really pushing back against it. You know, like...
it's what the studios think the audience will turn out to see.
Daniel Craig as James Bond.
So that's the thing.
Very
that's the thing. Did you heard the story about how Barbara Broccoli discovered him?
Yeah,
he was literally walking down a corridor in a church, you know, in a hood and a cloak. Yeah, in Elizabeth.
Oh, right. Yeah, I've seen the documentary.
So that it was just she connected with the way that he moved, which is funny because Terrence Young, the director of Dr. No and From Russia with Love and Thunderball, also talks about that Sean Connery moved like a panther. That like the movement was very, very important to them. And if you watch...
It's the physicality that he definitely has, you know, in that first movie. Like, you watch him and he is a wrecking ball of a figure. Like, you know, he's, you know, even when... And what's really cool about it is that for the first... I don't know if this is intentional, but in the first half of the movie, I'm watching him and I'm going, he's moving like a jacked up gorilla, right?
Right.
And then he puts on the suit, and
he
suddenly he moves more smoothly.
He needs to sort of like develop that class, because he's at the beginning he is more of a blunt instrument.
The word you used and M used was thug.
But the thing that's interesting about Craig's trajectory is that he wouldn't allow himself to be typecast.
Yeah.
So you look at things
he did a lot of different things.
Yeah, he did a lot of different things at the time. Like Flashbacks of a Fool was definitely not sort of a vanity project. Like sort of he's kind of laid bare, and definitely not a moral character.
No.
Whereas
they
I'm
established
sure
that very, very early on.
Right. Whereas I'm sure that like Pierce Brosnan definitely at the time when he was Bond, it was very important to the producers that he play roles that didn't sort of
ruin his
subvert
charm.
any of the illusion of him being that character. He still needed to wear suits. He still needed to look suave. He still, you know. But you look at Daniel Craig's trajectory, and it got movies like Knives Out and Logan Lucky and things like that.
I am incarcerated.
It's a donut hole, a hole of a donut. Y'all, I say what I say.
It's a dumb movie.
Yeah. On the subject of actors feeling a certain way about the characters that they play, look at Stanley Tucci in The Lovely Bones.
Lovely Bones, yeah.
He had a real issues with playing that character. He got out of it the other side, but he is an actor. And that's another thing, is that like nowadays, it's a very contentious subject. It's very controversial and people are still talking about it. So I don't want to get too deeply into it, but there is still that sort of pushback of actors playing characters who are not of the same nationality or of the same race. Like you don't want somebody coming in and taking the work from the actors, but at the same time, acting is about playing something that you're not.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Willem Dafoe in Once Upon a Time in Mexico, I mean, I don't know why nobody's ever brought that up, but that is, by today's standards, pretty bad.
Yeah.
I think that there are two sides to the debate, but at the same time, I think that actors should be able to play whatever roles they are good at playing.
I mean, there is a difference between, Kiefer Sutherland playing a character from, of Mexican descent, right?
Right.
To him playing a member of the KKK, right? That shift is like, he is white and he has blonde hair, and there's something about him in that movie when he's playing that role. He's a very good actor. I think it's interesting that he just wasn't worried about it. In Speed, you've got Dennis Hopper, and I don't know that I've ever seen him play a good guy.
Easy Rider, maybe.
Okay, I've never seen Easy Rider, but like it's interesting. Like
you see him in Blue Velvet, and he's like 20 times more psychotic than he is in this.
Typecasting is a thing, but I'm wondering. Alfred Molina likes that little niche that he's carved out for himself, right? Of being in these secondary roles. He's quite happy with that. I'm wondering if there are actors who are happy and comfortable playing those sort of villain roles.
You remember that sketch? I think it was Dead Ringers, where they're doing Alan Rickman. And it's like, I'll get you, Harry Potter. I'll get you, Robin of Locksley. I'll get you, John McClane.
Alan Rickman plays the token baddie in Hollywood films. Who can forget Alan's carefully honed performance in Die Hard?
I'll get you, John McClane.
His unique interpretation of the Sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood.
I'll get you, Robin of
And, of course, his towering performance in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
I'll get you, Harry Potter.
Also includes Alan Rickman confronting his agent the moment it dawned on him that he was now hopelessly typecast forever.
I'll get you, lousy agent.
I think that Alan Rickman did quite a lot of sort of indie work.
Yeah.
Truly Madly Deeply, things like that. That he was definitely, an awfully big adventure as well. He was playing characters that were not necessarily evil, and sometimes good. I mean, Love Actually is debatable, but
it's not debatable. He's a scumbag.
He's a scumbag. But he's not.
But
like,
he's not a villain.
He's not moustache twirling. It's a different kind of character.
He's not playing a villain. A villain? He's not playing a villain in that movie.
Not playing a vaudevillian.
Vaudevillian. A Vippel, Wuffel, Vispel. A Wuspel, Vom.
But he's. But the thing is, I think that within the sort of mainstream Hollywood run of movies, he was always playing that sort of moustache twirling villain, like in Sweeney Todd as well. Like I think he enjoyed doing that. I mean,
mood today, Mr. Todd.
Yes, I think he enjoyed doing that. I have all of them here, pictures of them. So
that's good.
Yeah, well,
that's not bad.
Drop page. Warbucks continue.
Hello and welcome to an on-the-go episode of What's Our Seat Number in the Park. We are Johnny and Simon Gross, and we are currently recording Johnny's thoughts on the latest movie news, which is on his mind, and we're making sure our kids aren't dying while we do this. But Johnny, go on. What were you going to say? Go on.
Yeah, have you heard about this whole Bradley Cooper thing?
What?
Okay, so there's a new movie coming out called Maestro, which is about
is that the thing with
the
sit back to back on the riverbank? Yeah,
sit back to back on the riverbank.
Well, they're sort of sitting back to back. It's him and Carey Mulligan and
fucking Merchant Ivory.
What is Merchant Ivory?
British films.
So Bradley Cooper's in a movie on the riverbank, and
so there's a trailer for it, and in the trailer you can see that he is. Well, first of all, at a glance, he does kind of look like Leonard Bernstein, especially in the promo pictures. But there's you see in the trailer that he's quite obviously wearing a prosthetic Schnozz.
Okay.
And Leonard Bernstein was Jewish.
Okay, so you're saying there was a scandal?
He had a prominent Schnozz. And so people are putting it out there that perhaps it's problematic and kind of like blackface. to don a Schnozz to play a Jew if you're not a Jew. Also, the lack of what's going on over there?
Are they crying or are they being cats? Go check. Hang on. So they're being cats?
They're being cats. So there's an issue of the nose, but there's also an issue of the increasing number of non-Jews being cast as Jewish characters, like for example Oppenheimer, Cillian Murphy.
Yeah.
Also Rachel Brosnahan playing Mrs. Maisel.
Are only Jews able to play Jews?
So
Johnny?
this is the argument.
As a Jew yourself, do you feel offended? You have quite a prominent Schnozz. So do I. I've been referred to as potato nose,
right,
which is not an untrue thing.
I went on that post, on one of the posts on the Empire group, just to say that I am Jewish and I have a prominent Schnozz, and this doesn't offend me in the slightest. Look, there are a few things going on here. One is that actors are actors and they should be able to portray something that is not them. And I think the people like David Baddiel and whoever else is complaining about this.
If we really think about it, right, Jews are not happy unless they're complaining about something. You ask me how I am,
yes,
and I end up telling you everything bad that happened to me in my day. I don't say fine.
Right,
like I start telling you, oh, well, I was with the kids, and then we went to the supermarket, there were so many people in the line, and it was really hot, and why can't they turn on the air conditioning in there? I mean, it doesn't cost them anything extra, really.
Right.
We're all paying taxes, all that sort of thing. I don't really know what taxes has to do with the air conditioning. Can you go and make sure they're still being cats and they're not dying?
They're being cats.
They're being cats. Okay, wonderful.
So, so that's one side of the argument is
that they just want to complain.
Yeah, and no, the side of the argument that casting non-Jews as Jews isn't really taking away Jewish jobs, because there are plenty of Jewish jobs in Hollywood. And to be honest, like Al Pacino in Hunters, for example, is not Jewish, and he convinced me that he might go to a synagogue with our father.
Right.
So, I mean, it's, as long as it's convincing, I don't really care who's playing what. I think that you're opening up a can of worms if you're talking about minority casting, because there are certain very sensitive areas where certain minorities are not getting jobs, therefore casting somebody, like for example, you wouldn't want somebody to put on brown makeup and be Mexican or something like that.
Right.
Like that is very problematic. I don't think the Schnozz is exactly...
there is a line, but the Schnozz is not where we're drawing the line.
I don't think so. I think that, look, I mean...
I don't think it's anything to do with anti-Semitism. I think it's to do with the fact that he looked like that, he had a bigger nose, and they wanted to make Bradley Cooper look more like him.
Right.
In order to do that, he needed to have a bigger nose.
Right.
I think it's as simple as that.
I think it's very similar to Joseph Gordon-Levitt putting on a prosthetic nose for Looper. He was just trying to look more like... And chin. He was just trying to look more like Bruce Willis.
Are we supposed to get offended because he wasn't, using his natural eye colour?
Yeah. So no, but what I'm saying is
wearing?
Wearing. Or using? I mean,
do we use our eye colour? It just is.
Or do we wear it? I mean,
it sort of hangs off our... It just sort of takes up space, doesn't it?
Because it's part of your eye. I mean, if you're wearing contacts, you're wearing an eye colour, I suppose.
She looks exhausted, your daughter, I have to say. She's fallen asleep at the top of the slide.
Right, she's probably listening to us talk. The large schnoz, historically, has been used as a propaganda tool to humiliate or to sort of...
Stereotype.
To stereotype, to sort of demonize as well.
Yeah.
There's, we're talking about like the blood libels. We're talking about the propaganda during the war.
Keep it light.
Yeah, I mean, but here the intent is just to make Bradley Cooper look more convincingly like Leonard Bernstein.
Right.
And
I'll tell you where my line is.
Yeah.
My line is, if somebody goes, death to Jews and they should be back in camps and Hitler was right, that's where I'm drawing a line. Anything other than that, I'm really okay with it.
Unless they're denying that the Holocaust happened, in which case...
Well, that's also kind of a line for me, but I don't care about that so much because most of those people, I don't know them, and I don't really need to care what they think.
Right.
And it doesn't affect me in any way.
It's a rabbit hole, because you could spiral into sort of YouTube comments. Like, I mean, look, I was watching Gal Gadot interview last night.
Yeah.
The Hot Ones thing.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a whole lot of interviews because she's promoting Heart of Stone, which apparently is quite rubbish. But that's just beside the point. And then you've got like Death to Israel, and none of that kind of stuff really belongs in that forum. Wherever you look, no matter what, if there are Jews or Israelis or whatever involved, you're going to have somebody coming out of the woodwork. Is that one of ours?
That is both of ours, blocking the slide and not letting a little girl go down.
What was I saying? I'm very distracted.
It's hard to be a parent and a podcaster at the same time.
Right. So what I'm saying is that you're going to find that kind of vile bile anywhere you want to look for it. Like they're everywhere. So I mean, in terms of actual anti-Semitism, there's no shortage, and this to me doesn't feel like that.
It's not. It's
I
just
think that
people
you have
looking
to pick
for
and
something
choose
to
your
complain
battles
about
as well.
Look, the whole thing with the internet is that we're just so exposed to everybody's opinion all the time.
Yeah.
Like, they make things that are not even things into massive things. And it's like everything is an offense. Like, every tiny little thing. Like, if, I was listening to Armchair Expert the other day. Dax Shepard and Kristen Bell were talking about how, I don't know, they told a story about a flight thing that went wrong. And everybody was like, oh, they're so entitled and oh, they're being so rude. And it's like, no, they're just telling a story. Why are you choosing to get offended by this? Like, everybody, calm your titties, please.
Cool your britches. I think that it's there is definitely something to talk about here, but at the same time, I think that in terms of anti-Semitism, I don't think it is that.
I don't think there's anything to talk about here, right? I think it's the whole thing with, like, if it's for a role, it's for a role. If he's doing it because he's making fun of Jews, it's a different thing. Context means something.
Right, of course. I'm saying that the argument about, like, sort of minority casting as well is multi-layered, and there's a lot going on there, and it's something that can't be sort of broken down into sort of a black or a white answer. Anyway, so as you can hear, we're very distracted because our kids are on the slide and they're doing things. So
well, they're just sort of like, bullying the other kids in the park. We should go deal with that. Bye!
What's our seat number?
Bonus.